So John, tell us a bit about Crocodile Charlie and why you created him to help people in the workplace.
Certainly. Crocodile Charlie is the story of a journey, Amanda. It's a journey done by a guy named Charlie Kingmore, whose nickname is Crocodile Charlie, as he discovers, much to his dismay, in the first chapter. Because we don't tend to go on journeys in life usually, unless something gives us a bit of a push. We'd rather stay where we are. So Charlie gets a big push in the first chapter. He discovers something fairly unwelcome about how he's regarded as the CEO of his own small company. And now he spends 6 months travelling Australia, having fun certainly, but having adventures and making all kinds of discoveries about teamwork, leadership, happiness at work, to hopefully bring back to his company.
Okay. I noticed that there were a lot of cartoons in this book. How did you end up choosing to do that?
Well, there are, aren't there? The short answer is I work cheap. I worked as a cartoonist for one of the large media organisations in the world for about 16 years and drew lots and lots of cartoons. So as I was writing the book with my co-author Peter Ring, these images just kept popping in my head. Charlie in a helicopter crash, Charlie driving a truck, Charlie getting some bad news from one of his clients. And it just seemed logical to want to draw those images to bring the story along. So there are 54 cartoons in the book, and I hope people enjoy them.
Seems reasonable. Now, what are some of Crocodile Charlie's adventures and the advice that he gives in the book?
Well, one of his biggest adventures, for example, and this isn't spoiling the book, the story at all, is at the very beginning when just inadvertently he discovers that his nickname is Crocodile Charlie because they think he's got a bit of a crocodile smile. They think he's a little bit insincere and he's not really giving them the real human. He's not really there for them. So that prompts him to travel to a very remote part of Australia, which we get to travel along with him too, which is fun. And he gets to meet somebody who was a mentor of his many, many years ago on a vast sheep station out in the middle of nowhere in a place called the Kimberley Desert. So that's the beginning adventure. What are his main discoveries? One of the main discoveries that he makes very early on is that you really need to get some reality on how you're going. You can't just make assumptions. You'll often be off base if you do. And the second thing he discovers is a lot of the conventional solutions. Same thing we've all discovered at work. Anyone's ever been team building, everyone's ever done a training course, everyone's ever been part of a management initiative. You know, a lot of that stuff doesn't work. So Charlie discovers that the hard way. And that, of course, begs the question of, well, what does work?
So, who would you suggest should read this book?
Crocodile Charlie is aimed at anybody who works for a living. In other words, anybody who works for pay. So if you see yourself as more of a worker than a boss, there are ideas and strategies in there that are very useful for that will also give you some insight into how bosses operate and think. If you see yourself as more of a boss than a worker, then there are elements in Charlie's story and his adventures over the 6 months that give you some insight. Maybe a reminder is all you need of how workers really think and what are some things that you can do about that as a boss to be very effective.
Well, that makes complete sense. Why now?
Why now is a really interesting question. There's a revolution going on in staff development right now. The question as to why that is, that's an open question. My own theory is that the current generation of managers and leaders is better informed and better educated than any previous generation. So the old claims about this kind of approach works, that kind of training works, it's very easy to verify and frequently disprove those now. And I sense a great dissatisfaction in the workplace, both by people who try to transform organisations and by the people who are the transformees about what's out there, whether it works, the reality of it. The world is ready to hear some new messages, and Charlie, I hope, can help a little bit with that.
Well, okay then. So what is Team Results USA? Who do you work with?
Well, Team Results USA is my company. I started it 22 years ago with a fellow named Peter Ring. He was an Air Force fighter pilot, and I was a retired intelligence officer, believe it or not. So not really two touchy-feely people, if you think about it. But we had an idea. And the idea was, what if you could take the concept of simulation that is used a lot for training pilots and is used a lot for training intelligence officers, what if you could just pretty much steal that before the alarms go off and apply it to teamwork and leadership in some way? and run simulations, not in front of a computer, but actually in reality. So we started playing with that idea, and 22 years later, I think we're finally beginning to get it right.
And where can people find a copy of Charlie and the Holy Grail?
Probably the easiest way is on Amazon, Amanda. If you just go to amazon.com, type Crocodile Charlie and the Holy Grail, or type my name, it's unusual spelling, so that's an easy, quick way to find it. But just remember Crocodile Charlie and the Holy Grail, you'll be able to get yourself a copy. It's available in hard copy and on the Kindle.
Well, thank you for your time, John. We look forward to hearing more from Crocodile Charlie soon.
Well, thank you, Amanda. It's been a real pleasure.